And with me today, I sit down with Keira Smith, a solution-focused hypnotherapist and trauma recovery specialist who has transformed her own life from despair to purpose. After facing immense challenges, including childhood abuse, brain surgery that left her visually impaired, profound grief, and fertility struggles, Keira was trapped in a dark place with no apparent way out. Her turning point came when she discovered a revolutionary approach to trauma healing, one that doesn't dwell on the trauma itself, but instead it focuses on clarity, action, and building momentum for meaningful life changes. Now, Kira runs a thriving hypnotherapy practice, helping clients make transformative shifts without being weighed down by the past. Welcome to the show, Kira. It's an absolute honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
Amazing. And Kira lives literally down the road from me in Stratford upon Avon.
It's nice to chat to someone who knows exactly where I live, and I don't have to explain or talk about the Peaky Blinders because that's usually the thing I have to do now. Instead of Shakespeare, it's I just know where the Peaky Blinders are from.
I know, yeah. Oh, wow. Amazing. So much history. So, Kira, it would be great for you to share a bit about where you are now in your life. And look, I was just absolutely amazed by everything that you've gone through. So, what was life like before discovering, who you are today?
Yeah, I'll be really honest with you. I didn't want to be here anymore, and I seriously considered taking my own life. I felt so weighed down. I felt completely trapped. I felt like I couldn't really see my future. I knew I did have skills. I used to be a personal trainer, yoga teacher. I was helping a lot of people, but it was not helping me, and things were getting worse and worse and worse. And yeah, I just thought I tried so many things. I was exercising way too much as a coping mechanism. I just felt exhausted. I'd got shingles twice. So I was miserable, completely miserable. Yeah. And trapped in unhelpful coping mechanisms.
So you obviously went through a lot regarding like your brain surgery, which left you visually impaired and
Yes.
which led to obviously fertility struggles. So did all of this originate from what happened to you as a child?
Well, yeah, so from birth, I was born into a family where domestic abuse sadly was uh, like rife, very commonplace. So I had two quite older siblings, and my dad was an alcoholic and he was very violent, and he was physically abusive to my mum, my brother, um, and obviously alcohol. Any times that alcohol was more prevalent, like at the weekends, that became more and more difficult. So the stress level in my home was at a constant high, and everyone was stressed constantly and trying to cope with it in their own ways. And being a little child, obviously, you're limited as to what you can do, you're limited as to what you understand, but you also start taking on a particular role, which mine was the rescuer, the person that cheers people up, the person who people come to when they want to kind of escape from the trauma, whether that's going out and playing football in the garden or you know taking me swimming. So you start to become this person who is, that's your role, is to make other people feel better. And that continued, and that's why I ended up being a personal trainer and a yoga teacher. But by the time I'd been doing that for 10 years, you start to think, oh my god, this is something that's been ingrained in me for such a long time. And so obviously I had that experience as a child, and then when I was 11 I had the brain tumor. That changed the course of my life because I was visually impaired after that. However, when I say visually impaired, I am, but most people are very surprised when I tell them I am, because um, you learn to cope and you learn to adapt. And I was very fortunate to have a mom who encouraged me to do things on my own, and friends who were very, very supportive. So but it's still a change. It's still a, something you have to cope with. Um, so it kind of gathered, the trauma sort of continued to gather pace, and then my parents got divorced, and that was a blessing. But then I ended up, when I was in my early 20s, having my own abusive relationship, and then my mum died. So, as you can imagine, by that point, you are surviving. You're not thriving. You're just getting through. So yeah, that's kind of where it got to. Fortunately, I then met a lovely man who I'm now married to. However, you're left with an awful lot of inappropriate behaviours from living in an atmosphere of domestic abuse, and that can start sabotaging your other relationships, which I was incredibly conscious of.
Wow. And so, can you share the turning point that led you to shift your approach to trauma recovery?
It was lockdown, actually.
Mm.
And I totally appreciate lockdown was really difficult for lots of people. For me and my husband, it was a turning point. It was an opportunity. He hated his job. I wanted to change my job, and lockdown came, and I shifted all my clients online, my PT clients. So that gave me breathing space because I couldn't have them in the house. So that was wonderful. Um, and he couldn't work because he was a driving instructor. So we had this opportunity. We were getting the government grants, and I thought, I'd kind of been thinking beforehand, I need a change. I'll put it out to the universe. What do you want? Where am I supposed to go from here? And out of nowhere, hypnotherapy kind of popped into my head. But I use YouTube a lot. I love YouTube. And I was going on YouTube, and all these videos were coming up: law of attraction, Abraham Hicks. And it was all talking about how your stress comes from your thoughts, and you change your thoughts, your life changes. And initially, I kind of pushed against it, thinking, what, but I started to listen and listen and listen, and I started to put those things into work. Sort of, okay, how does this work? I'm starting to do this. I am starting to feel better. And then I thought, right, I'm going to look into this hypnotherapy thing because I think it could be good. And fortunately, in Birmingham was a solution focused hypnotherapy course. And because it was the nearest one, I thought, I'm going to ring up the lecturer, speak to him. Fantastic guy called Gary, very much still a mentor of mine. He explained it, and I was like, this sounds like exactly what I want for myself and for who I'm working for, my clients. So the first day I went, he explained all the neuroscience, and it was literally the scientific version of the law of attraction. And I was like, yes, this is meant to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is perfect. And that was just, I felt like my brain had gone into HD. I was like, wow, it blew my mind. So that was it.
That is amazing. You found your purpose.
I found my purpose, and I was absolutely guided to it
Wow.
through various means, but it
I
it
love that.
definitely is my purpose, yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Wow. And so, many people, we spoke about this earlier, they associate trauma healing with having to revisit painful memories. So,
Mm.
why does your approach avoid this?
Yeah, so basically, in our institution focused hypnotherapy, we talk about stress bucket, and it's a really simple way for our clients to imagine all the stuff that's in their brain that they have gathered potentially from birth.
Mm,
And stuff that goes in there is not just huge chunks of trauma and grief, it's
mm,
also negative thoughts. So, negative thoughts cause anxiety and stress. And of course, if you've got big lumps of trauma in there, your thoughts are much more negative. Now, if our brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So if we start talking about unpleasant things, or even watching it on the TV or anything like that, your brain thinks it's happening. It produces all the necessary chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, and it also then puts it back in the stress bucket, and it's got to be processed all over again.
mhm,
So potentially by talking about it, and this is not to say, because a lot of my clients have felt they needed to go and see somebody to talk through it first. That's not to say that isn't useful, but a lot of them come to a point where they've had enough of that. because they're now at the point where they need to clear out what's in that stress bucket. And so, what we don't want to do is keep filling that stress bucket up. What we want to do is go, right, let's start to be mindful of what's going in there, and let's start to improve your sleep so that that processing can get done on its own during your sleep. So, when we sleep, during our REM sleep, all the memories that are in that stress bucket are getting shifted out of our fight flight brain into our intellectual, rational, positive brain. Once they're shifted into that positive, rational part of the brain, you have emotional distance from them. So at that point, you could. So, a really good example of this is lady came to me. She'd had a car crash when she was 18, not really driven since. Came to me, got more confident at driving, drove past a car crash, and carried on driving, and it didn't upset her. And so that's why we don't keep going back. We don't keep talking about it because we don't want it to keep going in the stress bucket and staying in there. We want to process it without having to talk about it and move on.
Wow, that is just so different to what I
Yeah.
was taught in therapy. Let's
It's,
keep
it is.
revisiting it, exposure therapy. It's like you keep
Yes.
talking about it, keep
Yeah.
talking about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We watched a video when I was training of somebody doing exposure therapy to a person with OCD and making them put their hand in a toilet.
Wow.
And it made me really angry and it made me feel sick. So, yeah, there we go.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Amazing.
Yeah,
And
horrible.
thank you for sharing that success story as well. Yeah.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Amazing. Yeah. So what's the first small step that someone should take when they feel stuck in trauma or life challenges?
Mm. Yeah, so the first step um, I've actually got a really great tool that's free and it's on my website for people, and it's a hypnotherapy relaxation. The very first tiny little step they can take is to download that and to start to listen to it as they're going to sleep at night. If you fall asleep while it's on, it doesn't matter because your brain carries on listening for 2 hours. What that does is it helps tell your brain that you're safe, and it helps the brain waves slow down, and it helps you get into a deeper sleep so you can get more of that REM sleep, which is where those memories are getting processed. So a lot of people who come to me, that's really they're not managing to get any sleep because their stress bucket is full. Their
Mm.
brain thinks it's dangerous to go to sleep, when actually what we really want is for them to get some sleep. So that relaxation is a great first step, and it's also a tool you can just keep. So if you need to listen to it through the day, if you've got job interview coming up, stressful event, you can just pop that on. It takes 24 minutes, I think, and that just starts to chip away at that anxiety and starts to allow you to relax and come away from that constant state of tension.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you. And so what do you think it is? What is the one skill that people need to learn to develop?
Yeah, the main skill is changing your thoughts.
Mm.
And that is why we give our clients a tool to do that as well. And that tool is writing down every single day. And again, it only takes 5 minutes, even if that, what's been good. Not gratitude journals, not mindfulness, none of that. This is science based stuff. What's been good? What are you proud of? What are you looking forward to? And it's personal to you. So, what's been good is so different for everybody. But what that does is it constantly refocuses your brain out of fight flight mode into that rational mode where, oh, that was really good. That was good. I did well at that.
Mm.
And it's once we start practicing that, just like if we're practicing doing a plank every day, we get stronger.
Mm.
It's strengthening the brain and it's allowing us to get into a place where we can stand back from our behaviors a bit then. And that's what we want, because once we can stand back from the behavior, we can start to change it. And that's when we can stop putting so much in that stress bucket. So
Yeah.
we give our clients those two simple tools. That's theirs to keep for the rest of their life. And once the thoughts start to change, just even a tiny bit,
Mm.
we can start to reduce what we're doing to stress ourselves.
Okay. Wow, I love that. And I love that you mentioned stress bucket. What a fantastic way to visualize that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a really big thing
Yeah.
for anyone who comes of any age, whether it's a child right up to an adult. It's just easy, isn't it? And also for somebody who has been through an awful lot, they can kind of think about it and think, Jesus, yeah, that's got a lot in it. And it's overflowing. And then when it overflows, that's when you have panic attacks and phobias develop and things like
So
that.
true. So true. So what we want to do is trying to get the stress bucket down. We want to try and
Yes.
minimize it. Yep, so that we can feel more lighter.
Feel absolutely. I've got a lady at the moment who she says when she's listened to the relaxation, the next morning she feels like a little bit more has moved out of that bucket.
Wow.
And once you've got that more
Impact.
increased capacity, you can think, what do I want to do? Not what do I need to do to survive? What do I
Exactly.
want to do?
What do I want to do? Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. Amazing. Do you know, and it's just thinking about just these little thoughts,
Yes.
throughout the day.
Yeah.
Positive thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we say solution focus, we don't mean let's pretend everything's amazing constantly all the time and you're never allowed to say anything's bad. It's solution focused is allowing, getting your brain into a confident, resourceful space where when problems happen, you can think, okay, what are we going to do? How can I help myself?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's something that I've trained myself into doing is, if there is an issue occurring, just try not to be in that state for too long.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Like camping out in it. Absolutely. You're so right.
you're
You're so right.
overthinking, negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant. So,
100%.
what are the common misconceptions about trauma healing and hypnotherapy, would you say?
Yeah, hypnotherapy, as you can imagine, people go, "Oh, you're gonna swing a watch in front of my face."
Tick tock, tick tock.
Yeah, TikTok, TikTok. Are you gonna make me, walk around like a chicken? And all those kind of stage hypnotist things.
Yeah.
So that's a real misconception. Oh, you're going to control my thoughts. You're going to do something weird to me. When really all the hypnotherapy part of what I do is deep relaxation. I
Mm,
mean, you are helping plant more helpful suggestions in the subconscious, but it really is simply a deep relaxation that allows the body to do a bit of processing, have a rest.
mm,
So the other one is that what I do is like spiritual, some kind of witchcraft. I am a deeply spiritual person, but this is not spiritual. This is rooted in neuroscience.
yeah.
So that kind of usually kind of puts people on, oh, right, okay. Oh, that's different from what I thought.
Mm,
Um, and they become a little bit more interested then. They take you a bit more seriously, which
yeah.
is sad because there's loads of value in other types of hypnotherapy and things as well. But
So
yeah,
true.
that's kind of the myth buster is the neuroscience.
It is. Yeah, you're right. And I guess films like Clockwork Orange probably don't help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's all those things that have kind of made it look like this mystical art, but
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Yeah.
quite simple, really. Yeah, it's quite a simple structure.
It is, yeah, you're right. And, sometimes I do that, like if I'm feeling a bit anxious or, a bit down, I just stick a bit of hypnotherapy on YouTube, just before I go to sleep. And it
Brilliant.
changes like the whole night, the whole sleep. And then,
Yes.
yeah, you're right, I'll wake up totally different person.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, just allows everything to calm down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Just
is, yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. And so, how do you actually help clients who are skeptical of hypnotherapy or who feel resistant to change?
Hmm. So I do get the odd person who turns up and is immediately just says to me, "I'm very skeptical about this," and I say, "That's absolutely fine. I'm just so what we do in the initial consultation is we do a brain explanation all about the intellectual brain, primitive brain, stress bucket,
Brilliant.
subconscious, etc. So right from the word go, they've got that education, which is the bedrock of everything we do. And throughout our sessions, we add on to that. We give them more bits of brain science and things like that. So they immediately, after they've kind of told me their story and what they want help with, they immediately get that science.
Mm.
And it's nice because one guy who was very skeptical said, "You're the first therapist who's told me something I don't know."
Mm.
And that immediately gives me value and
Mm.
makes me feel great. I've got something to take away from. So I think the kind of usually to help people be less skeptical is giving them a very, if it's not in the initial consultation, a very brief outline of what I do. Um, but some people, of course, you explain that to them and you explain what we're going to do in the sessions, and the kind of penny drops that, oh, I'm going to have to do something. This
Mm.
is going to be me, not just the therapist waving a magic wand. So some people you can see are quite resistant to that. Most people will go, let's give it a go, and then once they've started doing the things themselves at home, go, okay, this is actually working. And for people who kind of turn up and go, oh, well, I haven't done any of the things you asked me to do, I'll say, well, it's a bit like not taking, like you've been given a prescription and you're
Yeah.
just not taking it. I said, so that's up to you. It's
Mm.
no, it doesn't bother me what you do.
Yeah.
And at that point, they kind of go, oh, she's not going to make everything better for me. I have to put the effort in. So
That's
it's a
true.
kind of to and fro process. Give
Cool.
a bit and then you kind of wait. But most people, because it's different from anything else they've done,
Mm.
will go, let's give it a go because nothing else has worked for me. So I need to try this.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like they come to you as a last resort?
Yes, that's a big thing, Annie. That is a massive thing. Yes, I've
Mm.
tried this, I've tried that, and nothing has worked for me. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
So this is why it's good to obviously share what you're doing now to raise the
Yeah,
awareness for everyone.
just making people happier. It just makes people so much happier, and it's, yeah, I want more and more people to know about it.
Amazing, yeah. So how do you maintain your own well-being while supporting all your clients?
Mm. So boundaries are a massive thing. So making sure that I don't see too many clients for my benefit and for their benefit, because I don't want people to feel like they're on a kind of conveyor belt. So I always allow plenty of time between sessions and things like that, so I can properly take a breath and walk my dog and you know prepare dinner for that night or whatever it is. That's a big thing. And I also have my kind of 4 pillars. This was in a book that I read, of having your kind of 4 pillars that maintain you in your life and what they are. And if you haven't done those things for a couple of days, you'll start to miss them. So I have walking, keeping the house clean and tidy, yoga of any description, and social contact. And I know that those are the ingredients in my life that are easily maintainable, but that keep me topped up to where I need to be. I also use the tools that I give other people. So the what's been goods and the listening to the relaxation. And that, we all go through stressful times, we all go through bad times. But
Mm.
I know that when I go through bad times now, I don't drop down to the level I would have done. And I bubble back up a lot quicker because of those kind of self care methods.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So if you could share just one piece of wisdom for anyone struggling with life transitions or trauma, what would it be?
It would be get in touch with a solution focused
Yeah.
hypnotherapist. I know that sounds ever so obvious, Anu, and that was a really good question. But yeah, when I trained to do this job, my lecturers said this will change your life and the lives of all the people around you, and I did not appreciate the extent it would do that. So I've had many friends come to me as clients,
Wow.
and it's wonderful because you're then all on the same wavelength, your relationships improve. So I would say to people, getting in touch with a solution focused hypnotherapist, and you can see them online, you can see them face to face. It doesn't just change your life, it changes your relationships, it changes the lives of everybody around you, because your behavior changes and then their behavior changes, and it becomes a wave pattern out into the world.
Mm, amazing. Wow. Thank you. So, Keira, how can my listeners find you?
Yeah, best way, well, only way really, is through my website where all my contact details are on there, my telephone, my email, and that's www.positivechangehypnotherapy.co.uk.
Brilliant.
As I said, the relaxation is on there. You can get in touch with me, or if you want to, you can book your initial consultation without having to even talk to me. So
Wow. Amazing.
that's helpful sometimes for people. Yeah.
Oh, so they just fill out a form.
Yeah, and they just put the details in, absolutely, make the payment, and I see people online, as I say, so I can see you anywhere in the world, and I see people face to face. A nice private cabin in my garden.
Wow. Oh, I love that. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And you're on socials?
I'm not actually on social media. I don't go on social media because I don't like it. And I think
Fair
that
enough.
a lot of my clients who come to me go, one of the big things I need to do is limit or come off social media.
Oh,
So at the moment, I'm not on. That
okay.
may change in the future, though.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Kira, it's been so lovely talking to you and for hearing your insights and your knowledge and expertise around solution focused hypnotherapy. I can just see the passion that you have for the work that you do and the clients that you're helping out there. And I just think it's amazing. Well done.
Thank you. It's been really lovely talking to you. Really lovely.
Amazing. So, listeners, please do reach out to Kira if you have any questions about what she does or if you wish to work with her. I'm sure she would be honored to hear from you. That's all we have time for today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you again, Kira, for coming
Thank,
on.
thank you.
I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Stay blessed and take care, my friends.